What's up, guys, and welcome back for another solo mining episode 25. So, we're doing essentially the very tedious task of low sec mining, and in a venture. This episode won't be that long, just because the way that I've been doing this mining today would result in like this video being really segmented. But I figured I would like to kind of talk a little bit about the strategy going into just kind of going after Noxium and Isogen, since we're going to be doing manufacturing. That's what we're stockpiling for. We don't want to be at the end of that road and not have Noxium, Isogen, those things. So the low sec mining is kind of unfortunately a necessary evil. So with this venture, essentially, prop mod, hardener, warp core stab. I ended up taking the warp core stab off. Sometimes when there is like destroyers, as far as rats, because with the warp core stab, you're only going to be able to use one of your hornets, which usually is not enough to take down these cruisers. So I kind of just ride the. I don't really worry about killing them. I'll just try to like mine enough to kind of just ride the damage, and then just kind of warp to a safe, and then kind of balance between the Jaspit anomaly and then also the belts, because they're both. I want to be able to make each trip to low sec, come back with a little bit of both. Even though Kernite is a lot easier to get, as far as being able to position away from gates, as far as AU distance and things like that. I'm running Miner 2s on this with the prototype cloak. Prototype cloak is essentially just kind of like I don't know, kind of something I like to do. So if I'm on a belt and I've already killed the rats and I don't want to go off grid because coming back would actually trigger more rats, and there's like somebody on D-scan, I can just kind of cloak up and hang out. Because if you keep warping back in and out, then you're just going to keep getting more and more rats. So, just something we're dealing with. Right here, I'm just filling up for Jaspit for the most part. Just to, kind of round it off. There's no compression in this system. And one of the reasons I picked this system was because there's very little activity as far as players go. So like I said, there's no compression in the system. So what I have to do is essentially go to the high set connection where there is an Athnor and compress, and then come back essentially. The reason I didn't leave the compression in that other Athnor is because it was on a repair timer, and I'm just kind of carrying it with me for the most part. But really, it's just and when you get warp disrupted like this, there's nothing really to write home about. We've got a pretty good warp core stability on this venture, so really you want to watch your shield. Once this guy webs you is when you'll start taking a lot of damage, because a lot of the damage mitigation and reduction is coming from our actual speed. So once he throws a web of fire on you, you'll start taking a lot more damage. So you want to try to be ready to get out of dodge. But it is kind of nice and just not really worrying about the warp disruptor, because you can just warp off whenever. That warp disruptor strength is like 1. You'd have to have like a warp and a scram on you. But we still have the warp core stabilizer on here right now, so even if that was the case, we'd still be able to get away, which is kind of the point. I love having the warp core stabilizer. The problem with that is you absolutely do need these drones to take down some of these rats in the belt. Even if there's no players in local, or if they're not bothering you, the rats can be just super annoying. Which is why I think an endurance would probably work better, since I'm not using covert cloak on this anyway. Obviously with the endurance, you're only going to get to use like 3 drones if you don't use a warp core stab. You only get 1 mining laser, but a little bit more EHP to kind of deal with the cruisers and things like that. And really, that's what it comes down to. Like the high value ore in low sec is essentially the kernite, as far as what you can get, substantially a lot of. So like that, I just we were at like 20, less than 25% shield. So warp off to safe, and then that allows me to just kind of rebuild the shield a little bit, just really kind of bouncing around. I don't think and then it's just like deciding on whether or not to go back out there or not. So, but then like bounce between like the asteroid belts as well here too. So right here we're just kind of taking down these destroyers. There was 2 of them, so we were able to kind of hang out here. At this point, there are quite a bit of people in local. When I started doing this mining trip in low sec today, this system was relatively empty. I mean, most of the time I was by myself, but it's kind of par of the course for me when I start recording or wanting to kind of document what I'm doing. Then I start getting a bunch of people in local, which is just kind of obnoxious, but they don't bother me. It's just about keeping. You can see I'm spamming D-scan right now. So the strategy here is I'm just going to keep these lasers on these kernite rocks as long as possible. I want to fill up completely. And the strategy here is if I see anybody on D-scan, which I'm pretty sure they're actually out there running cosmic signatures and combat anomalies. But essentially, if I see anybody on D-scan, I would just cloak. Because I'm very purposely, far enough away from all the rocks with this orbit that I can cloak and still kind of maintain that orbit. And that would be like the strategy here. But I don't really I try not to orbit all the time. I was orbiting here just because I was fighting the destroyers. But if you're not going to have like any issues, it's best to just kind of get stationary. And it's just, cause it's really obnoxious just kind of watching a ship go around and around and around. But as you can see here, we've already done a path. We already taken a load back to high sec and compressed it, came back. Normally you'd probably stage it. We could probably, if we were going to do, I don't know, like hours and hours and hours of this, we would probably stage all the compressed in a NPC next door. But it's very unlikely that I would get caught in this ship. The most annoying part about this, what I did today, is just the rats. Not being able to have kind of best of both worlds, not being able to have your workhorse stabilizer and have 2 drones out is unfortunate. But I think what I'll probably do, I kind of wanted to take this ship out today and see how it feels and see how I like it. I know you could, this is like 10 million. I'll put the fit in the description, but it's like 10, 12 million maybe. And then this trip ends up, this whole like kind of excursion, I guess you could call it, ends up being like 5 million in compressed value. So spending a little bit more time, probably like another like 20 minutes or so to fill up another 2 times would pay for the ship in its entirety. But then that also kind of like puts me on the subject of if you're doing a lot of manufacturing, you need isogen and you need noxium, and you don't really enjoy this whole like, mine a little, warp off, the kind of mentality. And I think this was just like from me going from like high sec to like null sec, and essentially living out in null sec for a while and just kind of figuring out how to do things. But it's almost better, in my opinion, to have like, a pretty high scrap metal processing skill and just do like ratting. Like, you do your normal like, null sec mining for Arknor and Bistot, and then I would just do like ratting, do like Tingu ratting or just the ratting in the Golem. And it would just take all like the non-faction loot, the stuff that wasn't really worth it, and I would just reprocess it. And I would get trit and all that stuff, and noxium and isogen from that stuff. And then you could go do like nullsec moon mining to get, pyrite, mexilon, all that stuff, and all the reaction stuff. And it almost actually sets you up better if you're ratting a lot and you've got a pretty good, scrap metal processing skill, and you're getting all that kind of random stuff, you might have to do a lot of ratting as opposed to like mining. But like going out to like low sec and doing this for long periods of time just to like secure isogen and noxium can be really obnoxious. So it's like, and also by like setting yourself up in null, and that's another thing I've been kind of thinking about for the past like, you know 2 days or so, like that, is I'm thinking that like I might actually station in null for the manufacturing and industry series that we'll do, because I can essentially do kind of what I've already done in the past, where I'm doing invention, I'm doing manufacturing, all that stuff. I got PI to support it, all in nullsec. And the way that I actually got those raw materials was just reprocessing, crap gear from rat sites or DED sites, right? And then also like the salvaging, you get like the salvaging. So, and with the data relic sites and stuff like that, all that stuff that comes out of there, you get all that stuff, and it allows you to actually, all that salvage and stuff allows you to actually make rigs as well, which is something that we wouldn't normally be able to do if we were doing strictly just mining. We'd have to go out, kill rats, and salvage their wrecks, get that stuff. So, kind of thinking about that a little bit. But I just want to kind of come out here and see how tedious it was, if it was as tedious as I remember it being as far as low sec mining goes, and then kind of take the stuff I get back, look at it under the repros kind of lens, and then cross-reference it with like doing the same amount of ratting, even ratting in high sec, do the same amount of time ratting as I did out here in low sec, and see kind of comparatively what the yield for scrap metal would be versus the yield for just normal repros of kernite and jaspit. But you actually stand to get a little bit more out of just like ratting, looting, and then reprocessing that stuff, in terms of like just bounties, getting like that extra, that ISK and stuff. So I'll be probably doing some sort of a comparative video here in the next few days and everything. But this was essentially like I would say about 3 loads possibly for low sec ore. I just don't like the gameplay. It's like low sec has just never been like really appealing to me, because I've been able to just kind of do what I've needed to do in either high sec or in null sec. Null sec is like the end all be all, right? Because even if you're manufacturing out there, there's ways to get trit out in null sec. I mean, you get like rat bustars and rat transports that can drop on grid, and you can get millions of trit just by killing those things. Or like I said, the noxium, isogen, all that stuff coming off of loot. And I don't know, you're just in position to do like, because like we want to do like manufacturing in high sec, then yeah, it's cool, right? Whatever. But then if we want to start doing like invention and things like that, we would have to do like a lot of moon mining, and also be in like an area that allows us to do that. And like a lot of this that goes into invention actually comes out of data sites. So it's like if you're doing data relics and you're doing ratting and you're salvaging all the loot and you're mining Arcnor Bistot, and like possibly you have ice or Mercoxis, and it's just like all those activities all feed into, and also PI, all those activities feed into manufacturing invention. A lot more things, it's like in nullsec, a lot more things from the left hand will feed the right hand, as opposed to in high sec. If you want to do manufacturing in high sec, you could do your mining, the selective mining you could do in high sec, but then you're going to have to branch out. If you don't buy anything, you have to branch off into low sec, and eventually branch off into wormhole space or null sec and things like that. So my wheels are kind of been turning, like as we've been kind of going through these last few episodes, and kind of like really looking at things in the mindset of just like stockpiling for industry. Don't be surprised if like the next literal episode after this, or the next one or two, we've moved back into nullsec to do this, to do some preparations for that. That's the biggest problem. I think the big reason I haven't done that yet is just because of how worthless Arknor Bistot is. But I think if I move back for the future industry video manufacturing series, I don't think I'll be doing a whole lot of Arknor Bistot mining. If I'll be completely honest, I think it's going to be like moon mining, getting the moon goo and the stuff from that, and then probably just go right back into like my my habits of Golem and Tengu ratting and doing all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm pretty sure this is where, yeah, I'm fooled up. So it's at this point, it's time to just go back to HiSec and go back to the Athnor and get everything compressed. And it's possible, right? I mean, you've watched this video, you see the process I take with a venture in low sec. It's just about like scouting. It's about knowing and finding a good system that doesn't have a lot of craziness going into it. And what's crazy is this system I'm mining in there is a faction warfare system, and which I actually like mining low sec faction warfare systems, because normally people go to those systems equipped to do like faction warfare PvP, and so really the mining, venture mining on the belts is kind of like the last thing on their mind, because those players are out there to try to get LP and to try to secure or try to balance out the contested areas. So I actually find faction warfare systems to be better to mine in than just regular low sec systems. Yeah, see, this is a repair timer. So, and there's also that system's a 0.5 as well. So I kind of keep an eye on it anyway for the rare moon ore, because it's a 0.5 with a 0.4 connection. But that system at the time of recording was had a pirate stronghold in it, so it wouldn't even been something that I could just do normal high sec mining in either. But yeah, so almost about 5 million for not very long actually. I would say if you take out all like the warping and all that stuff like that, then you're probably looking at 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to do 5 mil with a venture in low sec. I can think of better things to do with my time, to be honest. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.